I've worked with NFL athletes, UFC fighters, Navy SEALs, super successful business owners, and they're the easiest to hypnotize. You know why? Because when you give a top performer a task, they're going to fulfill the task. You give them instructions. Now, if they don't want to be hypnotized, fine. They don't want to be hypnotized. But you get somebody like that, like, hey, this is what we're going to do today. This is the result we're going to get. They're all in. It's usually people go, oh, I'm too strong-willed to be hypnotized. It's actually the opposite. The strongest willed people are the easiest to hypnotize. It's the people who don't have strong will, who can't follow through, who can't follow instructions. Those are the people that are harder.
You know, Dom, it's not every day that you meet a professional hypnotist. And for me, when I saw that, it was like, I got to get this guy on the podcast. I want to have this conversation. Curious what the feedback or response is when you meet strangers and you tell them what it is that you do.
Well, you know, it's funny, when I first got certified and I would tell people, most of the time it's this shocking, like, and you can tell they're kind of a little weirded out, or it's either they're weirded out, like, oh, this is black magic, stay away from me, or they're very intrigued. And so, to be honest, when I meet strangers, I really don't like to talk about what I do, because it's just such a weird situation. So I have a way of talking about what I do without saying I'm a hypnotist. And so it gets people to be a little bit more open to it. And then, you know, I'm able to kind of open up the conversation that way, rather than being like, I'm a hypnotist, you know?
Well, let's hear that, man, because I'm curious how that's done.
So this is how I do it. I'll say, if somebody says, oh, what do you do? I'll say, are you familiar with hypnosis and NLP? And they'll say, oh yeah, I've heard of hypnosis before. I say, yeah, that's what I do. I help people overcome their mental blocks around, life and things like that. And they'll go, oh, okay. But if I say I'm a hypnotist, they immediately, it's just this weird, which, can be good or bad, but I just don't want to get, it's a weird situation for sure.
Yeah. Now that response, I know about this much about NLP. That actually sounds like that's coming out of like some NLP practices, because I've actually been in trainings where people teach similar type of stuff like that. Is there actual principles behind why you're doing it that way?
No, I just know that I feel like saying you're a hypnotist is almost like saying, hey, I'm a porn star, right? You're either going to get like whoa, that's gross, or you're going to be like, well, that's interesting. What is this about, right? So I know how to I'm a word wizard, right? So I know how to word things in a way to make people feel comfortable and accept them. So that's kind of the way I've found that works the best without getting that weird reaction.
Yeah. Are you familiar with the YouTube channel Charisma on Command?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I was going through some of Charlie's stuff one time, and he was talking about how to become like a very interesting kind of charismatic person when you're meeting new people. And it's like, everybody gets this question, what do you do for a living? Like for me, I could easily say I'm a podcast host and I run a coaching business and I've done some bodybuilding in the past. Like that would be a typical response, like that somebody would think about kind of my life and what I do. But for me, and kind of what Charlie was saying, is like, when people ask that question, they're not really interested in what it is you're doing. They're looking for something that they could hook into, and then that can carry on the conversation. So oftentimes when I get that, I'm like, are you ready? Because I do a lot. I work with men, and then I'll kind of go through like dropping 5, 6 different things, and hopefully they can hook into one of them. Maybe it's fitness. I've done executive leadership. I obviously have a background in bodybuilding. I do the podcasting stuff now, and I work with porn addictions. So there's a lot. And I've even done some marketing and business coaching. So there's like 6 different things. And that's why I loved how your response was like, it wasn't saying, it was asking the question. So you're kind of drawing that person in.
Yeah, exactly. I'll say this, if I was single, which I'm not, and I wanted to get a bunch of girls, you know what I would tell them? I would say I'm a hypnotist, because women love that stuff. They're like, ooh, they're intrigued, right? Men will have a different response, like, oh, this is like a fake martial arts thing, that won't work on me, and that kind of situation. So I just don't even care to go back and forth. And that's what a lot of people will do. Well, then hypnotize me. I'm like, bro, I do this all day. I'm hanging out here. I don't want to work right now. Like, you know what I mean? Like, oh, you're a roofer? Go fucking build me a roof, dude. You know what I mean? So I just prefer to do it that way. It makes it easier.
Yeah, that's great, man. Dude, I'm so fascinated with the work, man, because I think maybe I'm speaking out of line here, but I'm assuming most people don't think of like hypnotist as like personal development, like how to break through. Like it's kind of a thing that it's like a comedy show you go to. At least that's always been my understanding. It's like, you buy this ticket, you're going to have some drinks. Maybe it's a fun night out with the fellows, or it's a double date. You're going to kind of go do some of these things. So fascinated with the professional side of things. But how did you get into it? I guess is maybe a great place to start here. Like, how did you land into the world of hypnosis?
Well, I definitely didn't grow up thinking I want to be a hypnotist when I grew up. I sold insurance from 18. Well, my first ever entrepreneurial experience was I used to sell and grow weed from about 16 to maybe 19 or so. And then it was just, it's a dodgy business, right? Especially back then, it was really illegal. So I wanted to do something that was more legit. So I started selling insurance. And after 12 years of doing it, I just hated it. I was really good at it. I was a top producer, but I was just sick and tired of it. So, I would often drive around and just be thinking like, man, there's got to be something else out there for me. This is just not for me. But I felt trapped because I was making six figures, which at the time seemed like great money. And again, divine intervention. My mom, Christmas 2018, she bought me a hypnosis course as a gift for Christmas. And I'd always been in NLP and hypnosis just because in sales and influence, you kind of come across that stuff over the years. And so I was like, wow, this is cool. I'll go to this course and, maybe I'll learn a party trick or something like that. And I went to this course as a 2.5 day introductory course. And within those 2.5 days, I shifted so much as a person. Like I literally felt different that on that Monday, I just said, you know what? This is the thing I've been looking for all these years. Like this is the career. This is what I want to do. This is what was put on this earth to do. So I initially made a goal I told myself, okay, if I could just pay my bills, I don't have to make the same money. If I could just scrape by, I would be happy with that. And I initially made my goal for 6 months from that day. So 6 months or sooner, I want to be able to just pay my bills so I can stop selling insurance. So the first week I went out, I worked with 45 people for free. It was a little bit over 45. I didn't have any belief that I could even hypnotize anybody outside the course. So I did a bunch of sessions for free. About a week goes by and I'm like, wow, I'm actually pretty good at this. So suddenly my 6 month goal, I cut it in half to 3 months. I'm like, all right, I'm going to just keep working at this. And the next week I went out and I worked with another 50 plus people. Within the 2 weeks, I worked with over 100 people for free. So now I just got like a year's worth of experience in 2 weeks. So my confidence was through the roof. And 2 weeks to the day, I woke up. I had 10 appointments to go sell insurance, which is like $1,000 a day. And I just could not physically get my body to get in my car. I was just done. So I messaged my assistant. I said, hey, call everybody, tell them I'm not coming in today. And I said, that's it. I'm never selling another insurance policy ever again in my life. And I actually called my little brother. I was like, yo, I just quit selling insurance. I'm doing 2 sessions for $100 each, $200 for 2 sessions. Help me out. And he's like, bro, I don't got money. And I'm like, just help me. And I called my sister. I did the same thing. And those are my first 2 clients. And then, here we are. We've got 17 people on the team now. And I got other therapists that work for me. So yeah, it's been an interesting ride.
Yeah, it's amazing, man. A couple of things I want to unpack there with you, but I hope the audience picked up on this. Obviously, we're going to get into some more of the tactical stuff and go deep here on hypnosis, but give a really powerful lesson on starting a business there. Got a lot of young, ambitious guys out here that, are maybe in a 9 to 5, maybe they're in a career that they were kind of told this is where you need to go and they're kind of unhappy, but they're looking for a way to kind of break out of it. You gave them the recipe, though. You got to give away so much free value for such a long time. I put a video on YouTube for 2.5 years, every single day. Like in the first year, that's what I was committed to. Like you had a 6-month kind of goal. I had a year-long commitment. Like I had gone through this massive kind of like change in my life. And I'm like, I need to build this business. I'd locked away from marketing agency. I said, I can do a video every day for a year. I know I have the ability to do that. And here we are, 3 years later from that, like, very successful, thriving business, multiple 6 figures. We're reaching a lot of, millions of people across the world. So powerful lesson there, guys. Like you don't have to have it all figured out, but start giving value to the potential people that you want to help. And that will open up and unlock so many doors. But you
Bro,
said
I'm
something
still
there,
trying
Dom.
to figure it out, man. I'm
Yeah,
still trying. I
we
tell my
always
team
are,
the other
man.
day, I don't know what I'm doing. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I do it and it works somehow.
Well,
We
here's the
figure it
thing,
out.
man. Like if I ever hear a business owner that talks like they got it all figured out, to me, that's a big warning sign. Like I've been in the game now 10 plus years running businesses, man. Like shit, the more I get into it, the less I figure I have a handle on it. And that's been the model for success from myself and all the successful guys that I know. It's like we wake up not knowing what the hell we're going to do, but we're going to do it anyways. Right. So yeah, I think there's a powerful talk there, but you said something about this 2-day event, man, how things started to kind of shift inside of you. Curious if we can kind of explore that a little bit. Like what did you actually feel shifting? I mean, you seemed like you had some things going well, like you're crushing in insurance, doing well, 6 figures. Some people never even get to that point. What do you feel was lacking and what was shifting in this 2-day event?
Yeah, well, you see, a lot of, well, everybody unconsciously, which means they're not aware of it, hold on to things throughout their lifetime. And it's a lot of the past failures, the regrets, the breakups, the all the shit, right? And we don't realize how much that affects us on an everyday basis, right? We in those events are basically create the filter for our reality and how we live our lives. And so within that 2 days, I just cleared out so much stuff. I just essentially you just resolve it where you're just like, you know how I'm sure the guys listening to this could relate. 5 years ago you broke up with a girl or she broke up with you and you still think about her. And then it's usually when you're driving in your car or you're just like kind of hanging out and all of a sudden you think about her and you're like, oh, damn, man, that was the one that got away. Or, oh, man, I miss her. All that kind of stuff, when it puts you in that negative state of regret, of hurt, of sadness, or whatever, once you clear that out, there's a saying, every moment you spend in your past is a moment you live you lose living in the present to build your future. And that's what you're doing. You're just clearing out all the past stuff so you can be in the moment and start to be able to focus on the future. So that's what I did in that 2.5 day course. And what's funny is I'm now putting on my own 2.5 day course in like a month from now. It's not a hypnosis certification, but we're going to do it live and have people come and experience everything. And it's just funny. It's been 4 years and now it's coming full circle.
Yeah, yeah, that's amazing, man. Dude, as you're talking, man, I was like, yep, I know that feeling. You see the black, you see the black Mercedes. You're like, yeah, she had a black Mercedes, and you start thinking about all these things. Or you drive by the restaurant where you guys had that great night. And you start thinking about it. You're like, yeah. So, I mean, what you just got to erase those memories? Is that what you're
No,
doing?
so this is what it is. Okay. Yeah. So I'll tell you how to do it. All events in life are neutral, which means there's no such thing as a good event. There's no such thing as a bad event. Everything is neutral because the event is determined off the perspective of the person doing it, right? Of experiencing it. And you could take the worst atrocities in the world. Let's take war. Is war good or bad? Well, it depends on who you ask. If you ask the guy that, owns the company that builds the tanks, he thinks it's good. If you ask the people getting bombed on, they don't think it's so good. So is war good or bad? It's neither. It's your perspective. So in life, when these neutral events happen to us, we get to decide, is this good or is this bad? Well, because of our negative bias as human beings, we tend to a lot of times think that things are negative, right? Oh man, I got in a car accident. This is so bad. Oh man, this girl broke up with me. This is so bad. Oh my God, I got this health issue. This is so bad. And when you perceive things in a negative way, what happens is your subconscious mind attaches negative emotions and limiting beliefs to these events until you go back and resolve them. And the way that you resolve them is you literally just shift your perspective and you go, hey, what did I learn from this event? You hear a lot of athletes say, right? You either win or you learn. And that's actually the science of how your subconscious mind works. If you think you lost and you go, oh yeah, there might be an L on your record, but if you don't take any lessons from that event, that moment or whatever it may be will haunt you until the rest of your life, until you go back and resolve it. So it's a matter of shifting your perspective. And then you get that like, all right, I don't care about that anymore.
Yeah, we've had a lot of conversations on the show around trauma, and I'm thinking about one in particular with Annie Yacht, who's a trauma specialist, behavioral change specialist. Her work is really centered around helping CEOs and business owners scale their companies through resolving the trauma of the owner, because oftentimes that's going to be a limiting factor. And I'm sure you can probably speak to this, right? Like limiting factor of the growth of the business is going to be the unhealed trauma of the owner. And we had this conversation, like, how do we heal? How do we grow? How do we transcend some of these traumas? And it's like her whole kind of angle is our trauma is a story that we're telling ourselves about the past, speaking exactly to the perception. And what we need to do is we need to get ourselves back in that moment, begin to recreate or rewrite the narrative of what that story meant to us. And oftentimes I think that in of itself, and I think this is what you're getting to, right, is like we could change the meaning of that event. We can change what it did to us in the past, and we can change ultimately how we're going to use it in the future. Am I kind of like in line with everything?
100% right. Yeah. It's a matter of shifting the perspective, because what'll happen is one of our subconscious mind's prime directives is it stores our long-term memories, and also it always wants to learn. So when something happens and you don't learn from it, that will stay stored and it'll give you negative emotions, anxiety, depression, sadness, or whatever, until you resolve it. And if you let it get worse, this is how people create illnesses, disease, and all these kinds of crazy things. You want to hear a crazy story? So On Tuesday night, I went to dinner with a super successful restaurateur. He owns a bunch of restaurants in all the coolest places in the world. And I actually didn't know him. I was there because of somebody else. And, he introduces us and we start talking and this and that. And my buddy's like, yeah, this guy's a hypnotist. And he's like, oh my God, I've been wanting to work with a hypnotist. This is so crazy. Oh, okay, cool. So somewhere in the conversation, my buddy is trying to convince his buddy to work out. He's like, come on, man, work out with me. And he's like, dude, I'm just in pain all the time, bro. I just can't. And my buddy he goes, the reason why you're in pain, your body's trying to tell you you need to work out. And he said, I don't think my body's trying to tell me that. I think it's trying to tell me something different. So I kind of glance across the table and it's all like lit up with candles and stuff. And I'm like, hey, do you want to get rid of your pain? And you want to get rid of your pain right now? And there's three people at the table. Everybody kind of looked like, what the fuck do you mean? Right? What are you going to do here? You got some pills in your pocket? What are we doing? So I said, yeah, it's unhealed trauma that you're dealing with and it's turning into pain because you haven't dealt with it. So it's getting worse and worse and worse. So this is what we discovered. And this is how people unconsciously self-sabotage themselves. Essentially, this guy was really successful, but everybody else in his family wasn't. And not only were they not successful financially, they all had autoimmune disease, arthritis, and pain, and cancers, and all these other things. So at some point, he wasn't aware of this consciously. This is all going back in the back of his mind. He felt so guilty for his success, and he felt like he was getting disconnected from his family. So the only way his subconscious mind felt like he could stay connected to his family is if he was in pain as well. So he unconsciously created this pain within his body so he could go, hey, look, my life isn't all perfect either. I'm in pain just like you. I want to still stay loved and connected with you. Well, in the matter of 10 minutes, we wipe away the pain and the guy's perfectly fine. So that's an example of when you hold on to guilt or these emotions, how it affects you. And now that we've healed that guy's pain, like you mentioned, the last lady, imagine in his whole entire life, all his relationships, his friendships, his businesses, everything's going to change because he changed himself, right? He's no longer in pain, so he's not frustrated and angry and pissed off all the time. So that's an example of how you can heal that trauma and how fast the results will be.
Dude, man, like this is my job, man. Like, God, man, I wish we had 6 hours here.
Right.
Here's
I
the
got
thing,
a
man.
lot of stories that are just
Yeah,
people won't even believe.
yeah, man. So I work with guys that struggle with porn addiction, man. And, just like you, this wasn't something I, dreamt about. I wasn't filling out, the high school, like this is going to be my career trajectory. It was kind of something I kind of, I won't say I landed and fell into it, but I had to overcome my own, 20-year, struggles with these things. But when I got free, man, and like I kind of looked at everybody else that was struggling, I was like, I don't want to say it was easy for me to break it, but it was kind of like I made a conscious choice one day, like after 20 years of struggling, like I got really clear and I made a real decision, like I'm going to get this out of my life. And when I said that, Dom, like I meant it. And there was no doubt of me ever returning back to it. One of the things I've seen in the industry and with the thousands of men that I've had conversations with is these guys that have had a porn addiction or they've struggled with it for 5, 10, 15 years. They're going back to the teenage years. They've said time and time again, Don, I'm going to quit. This is the last time. They close the laptop, the guilt, the shame. I'm done with this. But then 6 days later, they're looking at the same damn videos. And then they go through this cycle. And it's this constant repeating of, I'm going to quit, yet I don't quit. I'm going to quit, yet I don't quit. To where they get to the point where they actually don't believe that they're ever going to quit. And I've said this from the beginning. I think that lack of belief on your ability to break through is actually what's keeping you addicted. And it sounds like that's part of their subconscious that is making their reality match what they believe about themselves. They could do the perfect program, but somewhere down the road, they're going to self-sabotage.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, 100%. And part of what they're doing as well is they're saying, I'm going to quit. What they should be saying is, I quit. I'm done. I'm done now. This is it. And not only that, we got to go further because intentions and words are so important. I quit for good. It can't be I quit because I quit could be I quit today, but I might pick it back up next week or whatever the case may be. So how we speak to ourselves is so important because that will determine, right? It's like kind of when people say, I need to go to the gym. I need to go to the gym. I need to go to the gym. And they never go, right? So I would advise them to do that. And then the other thing is, yeah, anytime there's any type of addiction, it's unhealed trauma, things going on in their subconscious that they need to remove.
Yeah, man. I mean, the precision of the language is so key. And anybody that's spent, a half hour in personal development has heard Tony Robbins say, you'll get successful when your shoulds become your must. And it's just all these little, what at time maybe feel insignificant, but there's so much significance behind the precisions of the words that we use. And I definitely want to kind of get there, but I want to stay on hypnosis here a little bit. What is it like what is actually hypnosis? Is it a state of consciousness? I mean, we're awake and sleep. Is it somewhere in the middle there? Or
It's
yeah,
black
let's
magic. It's spell casting. It's the occult. No, I'm just kidding. All hypnosis is a state of trance, and we've all been hypnotized hundreds of thousands of times throughout our lives. So here's what hypnosis is like. Have you ever been driving on the freeway or something, and you're just going along, and suddenly you arrive at your destination, and in an hour felt like 20 minutes, or you almost even lost track of time? Have you ever had that happen before?
mm-hmm.
Well, what happened there is you went into a state of hypnosis. Now, the difference is that you did it accidentally. You didn't realize that, oh, this is a tool that I could use to, heal unresolved stuff or focus on my future or whatever the case may be. And so the other places you'll experience hypnosis is in movies, right? At first, you're watching a movie and it's a bunch of superheroes flying around, and it's like, oh, yeah, this is cool. Then an hour into it, you're so engulfed in it that you feel like you're a part of it, or you feel like it's almost real, right? You're hypnotized by the movie. You're just in it. Another time, people will feel what hypnosis feels like is daydreaming. When you look at something and you just get stuck on it, and then your mind kind of slows down, you kind of snap out of it. That's literally what hypnosis is. Now, the difference is between like what I do and all that stuff is we're doing it with an intention. So we're intentionally putting you in that place so that we can go into your subconscious mind. Because what happens when we're in a normal waking state like we are now, our brainwave cycles are moving so fast that we're not able to tap into our subconscious mind and bring to the surface whatever we need to bring to the surface. And so that stuff stays blocked until we relax. We go into that hypnotic state, then our brainwave cycles slow down, and then we can tap into the subconscious mind and figure out, okay, what's the piece here that needs to be removed?
At the beginning that, you'll talk to women, and women are always the one that like, oh, hypnotize me. And then a lot of guys you'll meet, there's kind of like this resistance to it. Question here is, are certain people easier to hypnotize? And if so, what's
Yeah, I've worked with NFL athletes, UFC fighters, Navy SEALs, super successful business owners, and they're the easiest to hypnotize. You know why? Because when you give somebody a task, a top performer, a task, they're going to fulfill the task. You give them instructions. Now, if they don't want to be hypnotized, fine. They don't want to be hypnotized. But you get somebody like that, like, hey, this is what we're going to do today. This is the result we're going to get. They're all in. It's usually the people that are the people that because people go, oh, I'm too strong-willed to be hypnotized. It's actually the opposite. The strongest willed people are the easiest to hypnotize. It's the people who don't have strong will, who can't follow through, who can't follow instructions. Those are the people that are harder. Now, even though they may be a little more difficult, it doesn't mean that they can't be hypnotized. And the other thing is, I always take responsibility for my clients being hypnotized. I don't put it off on them. So if somebody's not going into that state, it's not their fault, it's my fault. There's something that I'm either missing, I'm not explaining it correctly, or I'm not using my voice, or whatever the case may be. I've worked with, at this point, over 2,000 people on a one-on-one basis. I don't even know how many other people with our company, like with all the other hypnotherapists, thousands, and I've never met one person that can't be hypnotized. Everybody can be hypnotized. The thing is that because Hollywood's done this job of like making hypnosis seem like it's mind control and it's all this other stuff, which it's not. People think it's going to be something that it's not. And then they realize like, oh yeah, I've felt this before when I've been driving. And like I said, I lost track of time, or when I've been in bed and I fall asleep, but I wake up, but I didn't remember if I fell asleep or not. So everybody can be hypnotized.
What's the most common like first reaction that you get from somebody? Maybe somebody that was, somewhat resistant to it, like, like I'm not with this kind of, magic stuff here or any of that, but then you kind of get past that barrier and then they let you hypnotize them. What's usually that first kind of response that somebody gives you? Like what's the experience?
Yeah. So the experience would be once you get into a deep state of hypnosis, it's almost I don't want to say psychedelic, but it's this place of trance where your mind just kind of wanders off and you're there, but you're not there, and you're hallucinating, you're seeing things, not hallucinating like, you're getting visions in your mind. You're not seeing dragons fly around and all kinds of weird stuff like you'd be on drugs or something, but it's a state of meditation essentially. And so what happens is when you're in that state, so we have our conscious mind and our subconscious mind. Our conscious mind is our logical, reasonable, rational part of our mind, right? That's the part, our analytical brain. Our subconscious mind is where we create from, right? It's where we use our imagination. So what happens is when people, let's say somebody wants to create a certain lifestyle, right? Their logical mind, and then let's say they're not there yet, it's in the future. Their logical mind would go, there's no way this is going to happen. I don't have the resources. I don't know how. I don't have the time, whatever, because they're only analyzing the logic of what they have. Now, bypassing that part of mind through hypnosis, now we can start to go into the creative mind and go, okay, forget about what you have or what you don't have right now. Let's put you in that place in your mind. Let's implant the suggestions. And when you do that, people begin to believe and know that, hey, although I don't have it right now, this is going to happen. This is what I'm creating in my life. So that's what it feels like when people are in hypnosis.
Yeah, I know you said it's not mind control, but how do you keep bad people from using hypnosis to manipulate? You understand what I'm saying? Like, I know it's not mind control, but can it be used that way? And if so, how do we keep the bad people from doing it?
Yeah, so always remember all hypnosis is self-hypnosis, which means that in order for you to be hypnotized, you have to want to be hypnotized. You have to be open to it. So if I go up to somebody and they're like, you can't hypnotize me, I'd be like, cool, that's fine. I don't give my gifts away to people for free anyways. So good for you, buddy. I don't give a shit. Now, if somebody's open to it, right? I'll give you an example. So I had this client one day. So there's a foundation for what we do. It's called cause and effect. And what cause and effect means is that when you're at cause, you take responsibility for everything in your life. It's like Jocko Willink's extreme ownership, right? So everything that happens in your life is your fault. When you're at the effect, it's always somebody else's fault. It's his fault, it's her fault, it's the government's fault, whatever. So I'll share with you a story of a client that kind of intertwines here. I had a client one day and she was talking about how her ex-husband manipulated her all the time. And she's like, Dom, my ex-husband manipulates me. You don't understand. He's just such a good manipulator, right? Now, is she at cause or is she at the effect? She's at the effect. She's saying the reason why my life sucks is because of him. Now, I said, okay, is it that he's a good manipulator or are you just easily manipulated? Because there's a huge difference, right? One is it's his fault. There's nothing I can do. The other one is, oh, wait a minute. It's my fault. I'm allowing this to happen. And once she realized that and she made that distinction, the manipulation stopped. So it's the same thing with hypnosis. If you think, if somebody is putting the responsibility off on somebody else and they say, well, you can't hypnotize me. Okay, that's fine. Because you're putting the responsibility off on the hypnotist when really all hypnosis is self-hypnosis. So you have to want to be hypnotized. You have to be open to it. Just like this woman, as soon as she was not open to the manipulation stopped. So same thing with hypnosis. If somebody's trying to manipulate somebody with hypnosis, if they're open to it without realizing it like she was, then they're going to be able to be manipulated. But if they say, no, this won't work on me, this is going to stop, it won't work.
Yeah, man. It's like you can't be scared of ghosts if you don't believe in ghosts.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
You got two of us in the house. It's late, it's late, dark one night, we're upstairs and we hear a knock downstairs. One of us, absolutely terrified of ghosts, is immediately going to revert to, oh shit, there's something downstairs. The second person hears a knock, doesn't believe in ghosts, boom, instantly falls right back asleep. It's just the power of our beliefs in the words that we use.
So you want to hear something crazy? So this is a story I tell on every podcast because it's so fascinating on what our subconscious mind, what our subconscious, because you brought up ghosts, so I wanted to bring this up. So it was the NFL season of 2021, and I had been working with a client starting the beginning of the season. He was like a third, fourth stringer. And as we were going throughout the season, halfway through, he finally got his first start. So what we would do is every week we'd get together and I would put the hypnosis, I would put the plays of the other team in a hypnosis recording, right? So we'd, when it's like, all right, shotgun 4 wide, pay attention to the Hail Mary or pay attention to slants or whatever. So my client, he got his first start. And so we jumped on our session and, he's like, Dom, I'm a little nervous. This is my first start. So if there's anything we haven't done yet, if there's any tricks up your sleeve, any magic you can do, now is the time to do it. Right. So basically what I told him to do is I said, okay, I'm going to create the sleep hypnosis, but this time I want you to loop it throughout the night. So it's a 30-minute recording. You're going to listen to it 8 hours, that's 16 times a night. Now, at the time, I had never actually used sleep hypnosis myself. As a matter of fact, I didn't really believe in it because I was thinking, I'm sleeping. So how is it going to work if I'm asleep, right? But I figured it's not going to hurt. So we might as well give it a go. So he listened to it Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night. And then Sunday, he messaged me after the game. And he said, Dom, I've never been more in tune with what the other team was going to do. And he said, it's like I knew what they were going to do before they did it. So that was a huge relief for me because like, oh, thank God it worked, right? But that got my wheels turned in my head. I'm like, okay, maybe there is something to this whole sleep hypnosis thing. So it must have been a couple weeks later or something like that. And the thought came to me. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to listen to a sleep hypnosis around creating more success financially, creating abundance, right? So I found this video on YouTube. It had like millions of views. It had thousands of comments. And I'm going through all the comments and there's just comment after comment after comment saying, oh, I listened to this and I woke up to $2,000. I listened to this. I made 10 grand this week. I made 500, just thousands of comments. And at first I thought, this has to be fake, right? Now, mind you, I'm already 3 years into my hypnosis journey and I'm still doubting this. I'm like, there's no way. But I was investigating like, all right, let me see if this is a bot. And I go to the person, they'd have like 10,000 subscribers, 5,000. So I'm like, okay, these are real people. So I'm like, you know what? I might as well give it a shot. I'm going to be sleeping anyway. So it's not like I have to interrupt my day. So I started listening to the hypnosis recording on a Tuesday. And by Sunday, we had our biggest week ever by almost 50%. Now, this was great. I'm happy to have 50% more clients. The problem was, though, I didn't have a huge team like I do now. And 50% more clients is great, but that also comes with 50% more work. So I actually stopped listening to the recording because it was too powerful. And I left it at that. Well, some months went by and the thought was always lingering in my head. And I'm like, you know what? Why don't I just create my own sleep hypnosis? But instead of making it around a lot of money, let's make it around a lot of money and working the same or even less, right? So making it more passive. So I created this sleep hypnosis. I put it on my YouTube. I put it on my Instagram. And within a couple of days, I was getting a ton of great feedback, right? People are saying deals are closing, their calendars are filling up, all this cool stuff. And then other people were saying that they couldn't understand it. Like it sounded like it was corrupted or something. So I just figured maybe I messed something. That was my first time making an 8-hour recording. I probably screwed something up on the back end. So a couple months after that, I work with business owners, people that are in sales, CEOs, things like that. And I thought to myself, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to give this sleep hypnosis to all my new clients as a part of their homework or part of our process, right? So started giving it to all my clients. Same thing. A bunch of people are like, wow, deals are closing, this and that. And then another client, one client in particular, she messaged me one day and she said, Dom, I think I'm going crazy. And I said, what's going on? And she goes, the first 3 or 4 days, I could hear the recording fine, but now it sounds like it's in a different language. She said, it sounds distorted. Something's wrong with it. So I said, I've heard this before. Screen record it, send it to me, and I'll take a look. So she screen records it, sends it over. I can hear it perfectly fine, just like you can hear me right now. And about an hour goes by and she texts me back and she goes, oh my God, you're never going to believe this. I said, what? And she goes, I'm listening to I showed my partner your recording. We're in the same exact room. We're listening to the same exact thing and she can hear it perfectly fine, but I can't understand it. It sounds like it's in a different language. So I'm thinking to myself, like, what the hell is going on here? You know what I mean? Like, whoa, I don't understand what's happening. So I said, let's talk about it in our session next week. So we jump on our call and I want to see it for myself, right? I'm still in disbelief. Like what is going on here? So I shared my screen, hit the play button. And sure enough, I can hear it as clear as day and she can't understand a word. Now she can read the subtitles on the captions, but it's not coming into her brain auditorily. So I just went with my intuitive, instincts and I said, okay, her brain must be blocking it out because she's afraid of something. Like there has to be some fear of success or something. So basically, what we did is we broke down the affirmation. It's one affirmation that plays for 8 hours, and there's little parts to it. And what we discovered is that she had all these fears and limiting beliefs. So she was afraid that she couldn't handle a large amount of success all at once. She was afraid that, when she became successful, she would be arrogant and cocky, and then she would lose all her friends and family. She was afraid that her friends and family would be jealous of her. She was afraid that she couldn't handle multiple sources of income. She was afraid she'd be successful, wouldn't be happy, all these different things, right? So one by one, we go through, boom, we go into subconscious mind, figure out where is this coming from, remove it, remove it, remove it. And then lo and behold, 45 minutes later, I play the recording. She can hear it as clear as day. Now, that's not even the craziest part. So I do a group call with a bunch of my clients every week. There's like 50, 60 people on there. And we go over different things or whatever, do different stuff about business and how to use hypnosis and sales and marketing, all kinds of cool stuff. So I shared this with a group. I'm like, oh my God, the craziest thing happened to me last week. I told them the whole story. And a couple of people were like, dude, that same thing happened to me. I just thought like the recording was messed up or something. So one by one, I started working with people and same exact thing, turn it on, they can't hear it, boom, we clear it. Well, it was either a week or two after this, I had all my clients create their own affirmation on this app. And essentially it just plays over and over and over. And so they're coming. Have nothing involved in this. I don't tell them what to say. I don't tell them how to say it. It's their voice, their sentence, their word, whatever. And within like 4 to 5 days of doing that, people that were playing their own affirmation in their own words could not understand their own recording because their mind was blocking it out. Now, even crazier, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, maybe, I was doing a group call and I was telling a story about how I lost a friend of mine. And, I told the whole story, whatever. Well, a couple of days later, I had a client that I met with and she goes, Dom, the craziest thing happened to me on Monday when you were doing your group call. I said, what's going on? And she goes, I could hear everything you were saying. And she goes, up until the point where you said you picked up the phone and your buddy gave you the bad news that your other buddy had passed away. She goes, for the next 20 minutes, I couldn't understand anything you were saying. She said, it sounded like I was talking underwater. And then after the 20 minutes, she said her phone was fully charged. Her phone completely went to zero and she passed out. So I share that with you because our subconscious mind will play tricks on us so much so to where it will literally block you from hearing it. Now, think about this. You got a business owner, a salesperson hustling their ass off, they're grinding, they're working, but their mind is not even allowing them to receive it. So it's a very, very fascinating phenomena that we kind of just stumbled across.
Well, man, as you're talking or as you're ending here, like the subconscious, I mean, it'll even keep you from seeing things that are kind of right in front of your eye, right? It's like, I can't find the keys. They're not behind the couch. They're not on the counter. They're not hanging on on the wall where they go next to the door. I got home from the grocery store and I put some stuff in the freezer. Yeah, they're not in the freezer. Let me open the freezer up. Nope, they're not in there. And then you search around and you're looking for like another hour. Come to find out they're actually right in the freezer. When you open up the door, they were literally right there in front of your mind. But because you told yourself that they weren't there, the minute you open it up, nope, they're not there. God, man, this subconscious thing is so powerful. Now with these sleep hypnosis, this is you recording your voice that they're listening to for 8 hours while they're sleeping. So I guess this is where your real secret sauce comes into the work, right? Which is going to be the NLP side, the ability for you to, I don't want to say manipulate the language, but understand the power behind all the chosen words. Because it's not just the fact that they're doing a sleep hypnosis, it's the power behind what those affirmations are feeding into their subconscious mind. So is that what really makes like your work, like the superpower that it is? It's the combination of your ability to get people in a hypnotic state, but then really the power behind the words that you're feeding into them.
Yeah, that is part of it. The most important part is really the person's intention. So, I'm very good at what I do. I'm one of the best in the world. However, if somebody doesn't want something to work or if they don't want to do the work, it won't work. So the person, 90% of why this stuff works is because the person who wants to do it really, really wants to do it, right? And then on top of that, yes, it's the language, it's the way I say it in the order that it's said. There's a lot that goes into it than just like, this is why I tell people you got to be careful who you're listening to on YouTube because You might not like it could just be an amateur hypnotist that's saying all these things and going in your subconscious and you don't even realize how much it's going to affect you in a negative way. The reason why I was able to find the one that I found is I like vetted it first. I was listening to it like, okay, this guy know what he's talking about. Okay, cool, I got it. But I'm not just going to listen to even if it has a bunch of views. That doesn't mean anything. That just means that people watched it. So yes, and there's a careful selection of our words to be able to make sure that we're getting the desired outcome that we want.
Yeah. What makes a good hypnotist? Like, what makes a good Dom?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, one of my mentors, he said, I went to his event or whatever, and I told him, yeah, I'm a hypnotist as well. Nobody in there was hypnotist except me, and we kind of got chatting back and forth. And he was like, "Wow, I'm impressed at how much you've created." Like, and he's like, "You and I both know this, Dom. 95% of hypnotists suck." And I was like, yeah, I hate to say that, but yeah, it's true. And he goes, most of these hypnotists, they might know how to do it, but there's no action behind it, right? So like we talked about earlier, like how did you quit doing insurance? I just took action and I just kept going and I kept going. I didn't know what I was doing, but I figured it out along the way. And that's where a lot of people fall short in this industry is they might have the certification, they might have the tool, but they don't really have any real life experience, right? Like I've built a business that does multiple six figures a month. I have a bunch of people on my team. Like I have thousands of clients that I've helped change their lives. So when you come to me, it's a different experience than, oh, just such and such hypnotist that hasn't created anything. And look, it's not always like, oh, this person makes this much money or they have this much success or whatever. A lot of times it's just their willingness to put in the work, right? But if you're a hypnotist and you're not really out there taking action, making it happen, getting through the no's, getting through the rejection and all this, but then you're trying to hypnotize somebody else to do that, that's going to come across in not only just in the language, the words that you choose, your tonality, your certainty. Like people know real recognize real, right? You can meet somebody and go, all right, this motherfucker knows what he's talking about. And you meet some other like, oh, this guy's this guy don't know what the hell he's talking about. So that's what really makes the difference is that person and not just their ability to do hypnosis, but who they are as a person. Well, it's just like, look, if Donald Trump tells somebody, hey, do this, they're more likely to do it than their best friend. Their best friend could actually, you could take anybody, Donald Trump, Tony Robbins, whoever, they could give you bad advice and people are more likely to take that than they could have the best advice in the world from their best friend, but because it's their best friend and they don't perceive him in a certain way, they won't take the advice. So it's the same thing here. As a hypnotist, you have to hold yourself in a certain regard to where people will respect what you're saying and listen to what you're saying, rather than just being, like imagine if I was scrawny and I was just all like weak and shit, people won't take me as serious. So there's a lot of that stuff that plays into the results that you get with your clients.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, it's the fat influencer on Instagram trying to tell you how to get in shape, or the guy that you can clearly see like has never actually built a business is regurgitating Alex Hormozi's business information. It's like, no, when people hear you speak, the first question they ask themselves is, why do I need to listen to this person? And if it's not screaming from your presence, right? Like if you don't hold authority, if you don't hold a presence, if you can't speak with conviction, then they're going to have to look at some of your credentials. So a lot of times it's what we're presenting is what people are going to begin to perceive. What's keeping this from getting like mainstream? Like, I mean, if we're turning people's if we're removing pain in a 15-minute conversation at dinner, if we're breaking through barriers in income and revenue, like why isn't this like the number one thing that is being driven to people? Like this is how you turn your life around. Like what's the holdback or who's holding it back, I guess?
Well, on the first part, the pain thing, right? So there's industries out there that make billions of dollars a year by people not being able to heal themselves, And I've had people with arthritis and like the worst pain, 10 years of pain, and they've done surgery, they've done pills, they've done everything, and 15 minutes it's gone and it never comes back. And it's almost it's a bittersweet moment because they're like, wow, I'm finally healed. But damn, I spent 10 years of my life. Fuck. At least they're better though. So that part, I would say, that on that first part, like, why don't people know more about the healing? Well, that's what I would say to that. The second part about like personal development and getting better is Hollywood has done a good job, whether intentionally or unintentionally, I don't know, but they've done a great job kind of making hypnosis seem like it's something that it's not. They make it seem like it's manipulative, it's mind control, it's all these other things, and it's just not. And what's funny is like, I don't know, man. Before I got into this, I've read all the books, did all the podcast listening, did everything. The Grant Cardones of this and that and this and that. And all that stuff is good. The problem is though, is that like if your subconscious mind isn't in line, that stuff doesn't stick. And this is why people like going throughout the cycle of like constantly. So I'm not saying not to do it, but you've got to also dive deep into your own mind and figure out like, hey, what limitations do I have on myself so I can remove them so that this information that I'm getting is accepted. So I don't know. Again, I think it's because of the stage hypnosis aspect of it, and people think it's fake or it's not. You should see my comments, dude. I've got thousands of comments on videos of just like, this guy's a snake oil salesman. This guy's he's a scammer. He's this, he's that. And I've got hundreds of fucking testimonials, tons of video testimonials. I got all these endorsements from all these high level people, and people still think it's fake. So it is what it is, you know. Hey, honestly, I kind of like it that way. I like the mystique and the allure and the unknown because it gets people interested. It's like, ooh, what is this? You know, rather than just being like, oh, we're gonna do therapy today, or we're gonna do, I'm a life coach or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, most great things are polarizing to some degree, right? I mean, like you're never going to do something that's going to make everybody agree with you or make everybody happy. If you're creating something for everybody, you're really creating something for nobody. So the fact that there is a lot of, the hate, the snake oil stuff, like that drives more eyeballs to your stuff. So the people that actually do want you and will work with you can find you. We've had some stuff that's gone, partially viral as well, and it's like, I welcome on all the hate, because one thing I know is there's not a single person on Instagram that is hating on me that is doing better than me.
Those same people that are calling me snake oil salesman, when I literally just told you we've healed people, and and it's not that I'm special or anybody can do this, right? So it's not like I have this like I invented this is my method. No, I've learned and I just implemented. That's all. And but those same people that will say you're a snake oil salesman, they'll go to their doctor and fucking pop a bunch of pills, and then 5 years later they're like, oh, my kidneys are failing, my liver's shot, my body's breaking out in hives, and it's like, who's the real snake oil salesman here, dude? Because you're getting addicted to some shit. I'm depressed, so I'm gonna go take a pill that's gonna make me want to kill myself. All right. So I'm sitting here telling you, you could go in your own mind, clear out your own shit, and feel happy as fucking hell without any of this bullshit.
Oh, dude. Yeah. We've been speaking about that pretty much the entire time we've been here together, right? The power of the subconscious. Like, if your first thought when you see somebody online is hate or, snake oil salesman, what is that saying about some of your subconscious programming? What is that saying about some of your internal beliefs? And you probably see the world, and you may be able to speak to this better than I can. You see the world through the lens that you see yourself. So the way that I interpret other people in the world is actually how I interpret myself. So somebody calling you a snake oil salesman, what are they selling that they know is not right for somebody? Or what are they ripping people off in their life?
100%. It's what we call perception is projection. What you perceive, you project out on other people, right? How you perceive yourself is how you interact. And, those people that do comment, rarely are they anybody that like looks like they're successful, or occasionally I'll get some dude, I'm like, they're all juiced up and shit, and then they're like, oh, look at this fucking guy, da, 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 da. And then I don't even respond anymore. I used to getting like back and forth. I've literally I'm like, oh, you live in Vegas? Okay, cool, let's go meet over here. But I'm just like, dude, I can't be doing all that. Was like 4 years ago when I used to be a little more aggressive. I'm just like, I don't got time for this shit. I don't want to go to jail.
Yeah, I've gone through those.
You've probably gone through that as well.
As well, right. Man. I was like, guys will be ripping on me. I'm literally like, here's my address, bro. Here's my address. Yeah. Come knock on my door, because like the internet's giving a lot of people the ability to say things that if you say that in real life, like you would have a fist in your teeth. So, anyways, is it a one and done? Like, is this something like we get hypnotized, we solve the problem, we heal the trauma, and then it's done, or do we need to kind of get into a system and a routine and like be revisiting these things?
Yeah. So typically we do a handful of sessions. I've done so many breakthroughs, or what we call them, with people, that we've deduced it down to essentially a science. Like, hey, this is what we do here, 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 here. So when people come to us with a problem, right? Let's say, they're like, dude, I don't know what, I'm stuck in my business, and I've just been stuck at this ceiling of like 20K a month, and I can't get to 50, or I can't get to 100, or whatever. That's something going on in their subconscious. So we're going to go in and remove those things so they can start the journey to get to those higher levels, right? Now, that doesn't mean that the person will never have an issue again or never have a challenge again. Maybe they clear that out, but like simultaneously some other thing pops up with their relationship. Or like for me, for example, when I first started having like success in this industry, I started having these weird thoughts about like, man, I don't want to get too successful because I'm afraid that like, what if I'm one of these dudes that just leaves his family, just gets this huge ego and then he just ends up like cheating on his girl or leaving. And I like, I didn't realize that this was a thing until I got to a certain level, right? So I had to go in my own brain and like clear that shit out so that I wasn't holding myself back. And then also so that I didn't do that whenever I started to have more and more success. So it's like you clear stuff out, you get to a next level and you kind of sustain there for a little while, and then it's like, okay, what's the next thing? So it's not like you have to do therapy and you got to do it every week for 5 years for the same problem. No, it's you clear out the problem, you get to a new level, now it's something else, right? New levels, new devils. So yes, it's not something you have to do all the time. You get the breakthrough and then you move forward. Now, sometimes like with the pain stuff, that's gone. Like unless they do something else to where they subconsciously like bring it on again, then but most people don't because they understand that their mind is actually creating it, so they'll stop it. Or if people believe like they're not good enough, they don't deserve success, or whatever the case may be, though once you resolve those limiting beliefs, they're resolved. But again, other things might come up in the future from something else.
Every new level of success, every new level of growth is going to open up new opportunities, new areas of growth, but also new limiting, factors to get you to the next level. It's like we got to break through the next ceiling to get to the next floor. We got to break through that ceiling to get to the next floor. So I'm assuming like it's probably a progression. One of the things you said, and we'll kind of start to wrap it up here in a little bit, but you said all hypnosis is self hypnosis. So if that's the case, like why do we need Dom? Can we learn to hypnotize ourselves?
Yeah, you really don't need me unless you want it to be faster and better results, right? So it's kind of like, can you build your own house? Well, yeah, but it's kind of like, so you want to work with somebody that knows what they're doing so that you get the results faster. Could you go through and learn it and go through the whole process? And yeah, but it's going to take you a lot longer than just shortcutting it. Now, what we do in our process, so we have a 4-pronged approach. Okay. I don't know if anybody else out there does this, but we do. So we have one-on-ones, right, with me or with a hypnotherapist where we go through and do a deep dive, clear out all your shit, right? Then we have my group that I do. The reason why the group is so important is because I get to speak to people about strategies and techniques. Like I said, I have a pretty fairly successful business. I'm in the top 0.5% or whatever, in a point zero, or I don't know what the number, like 1%. So I have a lot of value on the strategy side. Or like, hey, say this instead of this, put this here instead of there, right? That kind of stuff, or sales or whatever. So I do that. And then we have the sleep hypnosis, which also includes, it's called the money magnetism program. So what this program does is it actually helps you go through on your own. So you may ask if you can do self-hypnosis. It walks you through step by step how to go in your own subconscious mind. Number one, identify what blocks you have, because not everybody has the same block. Some people might have this one or that one. So you identify which ones are here for me. And then you go through and it teaches you how to remove them, right? Like I mentioned throughout the call. And then the fourth aspect is we do, which I have come up, like I said, the in-person event. And that gives you the opportunity to experience it live. There's an energy about a live event, right? Every time I do a live event where I go to something, I always come back and like our sales increase. I have a new perspective on something. Like I always get a ton of value of that. Plus the people that you meet there, right? You network, you do all these things. So it's a very, very powerful, because you go to most hypnotists, it's like, okay, we're just doing 5 one-on-one sessions. Okay, cool. But like, what about, like we got to hit it from every angle. And that's why what we do is so powerful, is just like, if you go through my program and you don't have success, you are doing something completely wrong, because we give you every opportunity to make it happen. So yeah, you could definitely learn it. It just takes a little more time.
Yeah, man. Dude, those events, man, like, for me, that's been life-changing, was attending, I haven't been to Tony Robbins, Unleash Your Power, but I've been to a lot of those type of things where it's just 3 days intensive, you're 12 hours, there's energy. I mean, it raises your state of consciousness, man. And I think when you were talking earlier about sometimes being in those trances, like sometimes you get there, it's like you kind of lose all sense of time, and you're just kind of like locked in. And it's like you said, man, if you guys aren't going to events, like get locked in and go somewhere. Like, start small, start local, but start to get into some of these bigger rooms that are just filled with this energy, because it's happened to me, man. I attend 1, 2 of these a year. I've been in masterminds where we throw these events on, but raises the consciousness, man. And you just come back in every single area of business, relationships, fitness, health, like money, all just gets to that next level, man. So I will definitely second the need to get into these events. And this gives a good Dom here. Let's tell the guys where they can find you, learn more about, the work you're doing, the event. I know you said that's coming up. So yeah, plug anything. We'll tie it up with our last and final question.
Yeah, you can find me at dom.the.hypnotist on Instagram. I also have a YouTube channel. If you go to not www, I don't know why, it's just you just don't type in www, domthehypnotist.com/hypnosis/Zoom. That's where you could do a free consultation with someone on my team, where we'll do a deep dive into your subconscious mind and figure out what are all these blocks that you have, because I'm telling you right now, 99.999% of people don't know what blocks they have. And that 0.01% are people like me that know how to identify it. And even then, like I get to a point where I get stuck with something and I'm like, okay, something's going on here. And I go in my head, right? I'm like, oh, what is this? And then I'm able to identify. But if you think chances are you don't. Chances are you might have a surface level understanding. And then what really gets crazy is when you get into genetic shit and you realize, oh, the reason why I believe this thing about me is because my great grandpa went through some shit. That's when it really gets interesting, because you're trying to find your blocks like on a conscious level, and it's in your freaking DNA. And there's a way through hypnosis where you can tap into those memories. And so yeah, and then my live event is coming up August 18, 19, 20th. We're going to be doing those every quarter, starting in the new year. So in January, we'll be doing that, and then we'll do it 4 times a year. So yeah, if you can find me on any one of those platforms, message me on Instagram. Happy to answer any questions, help people along the way. And also, I have an app that I just launched that allows you to get that sleep hypnosis I was talking about. You can get it for free. And there's an upgrade in there. It's super inexpensive. They can upgrade to the program where it teaches you the self-hypnosis like you talked about. So you just go to on Android or Google Play Store, Dom the Hypnotist, and then it'll pull up the app, download it for free. You'll get instant access, and you can listen to the sleep hypnosis and figure out, hey, am I one of these people that's like gonna get blocked on it? And you'd be surprised. It's a lot of people that end up getting blocked. So
yeah, that's amazing. And guys, we got all that plugged down. Was there a site with info on the main event, or not the main event, but the live event? Was there a place where they can go to learn more?
Apply domthehypnotist.com/event. You can also go to my Instagram as well, and you'll see it on there. It'll say event, and they can go on there. We're like, I don't even really promote that, honestly, like as for something people outside of our group to buy, just because we're almost at capacity. And also I like the fact that everybody that's coming to it has been through our process to some degree. So it's just going to be a different kind of, perspective. Nobody's coming in all skeptical and trying to prove this and do that. Everybody's like bought in. And the reason why they're there is because they all have results, right?
Yeah. And now they're trying to take it to kind of next level. So
it's like your own fans, right?
Amazing. Yeah. So guys, we'll get all that plugged down there in the show notes. If you're watching on YouTube, it'll be in the description box. For those of you on audio, it'll be down there in the show notes. So Dom, we like to end every single podcast with the same question here. The title of the show is obviously called The Superhuman Life. For me, when I talk about living a superhuman life, I really view it as it's a belief system, or it's a way I try to show up in the world every single day. And it's coming from the place that I do believe that we're put here for a purpose. Like, we've all been given gifts, and there's a reason that we're on the planet at this time. And yours is clearly helping people break through some of these beliefs by utilizing the tools that you've been given. And I think a lot of people accept that. A lot of people know, like, yeah, there is a purpose and meaning behind my life. I think the second part that makes it a superhuman life is when you're very intentional about the development of who you are, your development about the skills, and how you actually bring that purpose to the world in service of others. So for me, that's how I define living a superhuman life. But I love to get the guest take. So Dom the Hypnotist, as we close out today's conversation, how would you define living a superhuman life?
Our company mantra or mission statement is to activate as many souls as possible. And it's funny, I was just thinking about David Goggins and how his statement is like taking souls. Well, we don't take souls, we activate souls. And honestly, what he's really doing is activating souls. He says that, but he's really turning people on. And activating souls is simply giving people that like passion, the excitement, the motivation back in their lives so they can create the life that they want in every aspect. You can't just be really good at business and then you're fat. You can't be fat, or you can't be in really good shape, but then you're broke. You can't be in really good shape and you have all this money, but your relationships are trash. Like every single piece has to be working together in sync for you to, in my opinion, for you to be living a superhuman life. So make sure you're taking care of your mind, your body, your spirit, and also your finances, your relationships, your health. Everything must be dialed in for you to live a superhuman life.
Yeah, amen. And guys, that's why we talk about the 5S: your faith, your fitness, your finances, your family, and ultimately the freedom that you're creating. Dom, this was amazing, man. Like I said, I wish I had 6 hours with you. Guys, if you got value out of this, make sure to check out Dom's stuff, follow him on Instagram, check out the YouTube. But more importantly, guys, we ask you here every single week. We've seen a lot of growth here these last couple of weeks. With the show, we actually hit a record day and week just at the time of this recording. So it's really cool stuff, guys. I'm so appreciative for all of you. So if you are enjoying these guys, make sure to leave us a 5-star rating and review. But most importantly, somebody in your life that needs to hear this. Maybe somebody's going through some things they need to break through, and the conversation with Dom can maybe help them get the tools that they need. So please do us a favor.
Can I share something with you really quick? Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. I got to say this because it's going to help you. This is a hypnotic language pattern. You said, hey guys, please leave me a 5-star review, but, and then you said something else. The word but deletes everything that comes before it. So you know what just happened there? Your listeners forgot, yeah? So this is what I want you to do instead. And I don't mean to like come on and like fucking, but I gotta do it because I know it's gonna help you get more 5-star reviews. Use the word and. Say, hey guys, leave 5-star review and blah, blah, blah. And people will keep that thought in their head and then they'll leave more 5-star reviews. Let me know how that goes because I know it's gonna work.
Yeah, guys, leave us a 5-star review and share the show.
There we go.
Love it, guys.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does, man. I appreciate you, brother. We love you guys. See you next week.